welcome to the Pick and Roll podcast. And today I've got a good one for you guys. So basically today is going to be the last day of full game breakdowns. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys an intro and let you know who's going to be broken down this week. So basically this week, it is again the last week of full game breakdowns. The first game is going to be Patacum Dialect. This is the last game we're scouting of Patacum Dialect from Ulm, Germany. The next game is going to be Arizona versus Oregon, but we're only going to scout Keyshawn Johnson and Pele Larson from that game and break down those two. The next game is Cam Christie, and this is the second time we watched Cam Christie. We broke him down last week. He looked very good. And then the next game is Omric Comrique. This guy's actually pretty unique, where he played in Morocco or something along those lines. And he hasn't played like in a college or a really established high-level overseas team. He was supposed to be in next year's draft because he's, played in the Nike Hoops Summit with Cooper Flag and players of that nature for next year's draft class, but he's declaring for this one, so he's going to be in this draft class as well. In the next game we're going to break down is Isaiah Crawford, 6'6", from Louisiana Tech. And then the next one we're watching is Washington State with Jalen Wells and Isaac Jones. And then the last guy, which is kind of funny because basically for Memphis's last game, I totally missed somebody that was on the scouting combine. So there's the last guy we're going to scout is Naquan Tomlin, 6'10". Okay, so the first game to break down is Patacum Dialect, 6'8", small forward from Germany, averaging 6.1 points per game, 2.3 rebounds, 0.7 assists, 51% field goal percentage, 35% three-point percentage, 0.5 steals, 0.1 blocks. So, over the time of watching him play, we've seen him, flash the ability to have really good standstill three-point shot as a 35% three-point percentage and really show interesting shot creation from every level, where you've seen him do a step back 3-point shot. You've seen him have a few different pull-up mid-range shots with the ball in his hands dribbling to the rim. And you've seen him be really effective driving to the rim and finishing and making it look really easy. He has really good shooting splits for that league with 51% field goal percentage and 35% three-point percentage. Those are really good shooting splits for, the usual tough shots that he does take, even though he only scores 6 points a game, but that's because he's playing at a higher level of basketball, just doesn't have as many opportunities with the ball in his hands as he would if he played for Duke. If he played for Duke, he'd, probably be averaging 18, 17, 15 a game. And off different splits, but yeah, so basically, he definitely shows really interesting, smooth skill. It's about how smooth and natural these moves look, and they look extremely smooth and natural to him. And he makes it look really easy, and he doesn't take a ton of dribbles to get to his shots, which the NBA really likes anyway. The NBA doesn't really like players that are on the wing that take more than 2, 3, 4 dribbles at max to get their shots off. He doesn't really take that many unless he's driving to the rim, which is a different thought process. But, I definitely feel like he also showed really good flashes of cutting to the rim. He's definitely been very, very consistent over the last 4 games of showing really eliteness every single game. He's above average athlete. Probably put him somewhere between above average to good. He's like in that range, but he's at the very least above average. And, his smoothness makes him look slower than he is, but he's not really that slow. He's a good on-ball defender. I wish I would have seen his actual length, but he definitely does look 6'8". He didn't measure in that combine. But, Patacum Dialect's got a lot of really good things about him. I still have him compared personally to Luol Deng. I have him graded as a 6 through 8 pick level talent. And actually, since my big board is finished, so since I do know the future of this podcast, where everybody's ranked, I knew the future. He is ranked number 7 right now on my big board. You can also find that on my website where I do have my big board, so that website will be updated before this podcast does, and next week's content, which will be the big top 60 next week. But right now, he's number 7 on it. He's really great. I could definitely feel like he's this year's Bilal Cullaby again. And Bilal Cullaby didn't really bust. He was drafted really high, but Washington really loved him last year. He really rose through the ranks of the pre-draft rankings. But yeah, I mean, he's averaging like 9 a game right now, which is not bad for a first-year wing, right? So yeah, definitely. Paticum Tylet's really good. All right, so next man up is Pele Larson from Arizona, 6'7" with a 6'7" wingspan, which is honestly, I didn't expect to be that tall to combine. So good for him that he's that tall. From Arizona, shooting guard, averaging 12.8 points per game, 4.1 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 51% field goal percentage, 42% three-point percentage. 0.9 steals, 0.2 blocks. He has a very good three-point shot. He shows flashes of attacking the rim well. He's a very smooth athlete, and they probably call him average, maybe above average. Translates to him to being an average NBA defender at best. There's not like a ton of shot creation there where you're going to see him hitting step-back shots in the mid-range. He'll be able to drive to the rim, look smooth doing it, smooth finishing at the rim. Doesn't take like a high quality quantity of shots. He reminds me a little bit of Christian Braun, who is the Denver Nuggets backup small forward. He does get minutes. He got minutes his first year coming out of college. He's a really impactful backup 3-and-D guy that passes well, shoots with the 3 well, can drive to the rim and defends pretty averagely. But he's like not a net negative. He's a very efficient player is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? So he's not going to really hurt your team specifically speaking. So, I do feel like Pele Larson fits that kind of mold where he could be a positive influence off your bench that doesn't have to take so many shots that he can negatively affect your team's chances to win. So, I have him graded as a 40 through 45 pick level talent. Pele Larson is 46 on my big board. We'll go ahead and kick it to Keyshawn Johnson now, his teammate from Arizona. All right, so yeah, the next guy to break down from that game is Pele Larson's teammate Keyshawn Johnson, 6'8" with a 6'10" wingspan, small forward from Arizona. Averaging 11.5 points per game, 5.9 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 53% field goal percentage, 38% three-point percentage, 1 steal, and 0.7 blocks. This is a very good athlete that has a nice body frame as well, real strong, really nice, which really translates to being a very, very good defender. I mean, his lateral movements are really elite, his ability to recover and, challenge jump shooters is really, really elite. He has a really good body frame, so when you're driving to the rim on him, it's tough because he's a really elite on-ball defender. He has good instincts defensively. He's very, very good. It's by far his most NBA translatable trait, and it's very, very elite. You can definitely see where the NBA is going with this guy defensively. He has standstill 3-point shots. There's 38% for the 3-point line. Me personally, the handle is a real issue because he can't take more than 1 or 2 dribbles without having to pick the ball up, especially in smaller, less spaced areas, which is where most small forwards are because on the wing and they obviously have the out of bounds lane next to them on the right or left, depending on what side of the court you're on. So they just have naturally less space anyway than like point guards to manipulate and dribble the ball. So it's more of an issue for him because even though you can hit standstill 3-point shots, you at least need to be able to attack closeouts. And what I mean by that is, when let's say somebody's a really good 3-point shooter on the wing in the NBA and, the ball's rotating to him and you're going to close out and really run fast and hard to try to get to a shot. And if he's not much of a ball handler, you can really sell out for the shot and jump in midair and, really sell out for it because if he doesn't have a good handle, he's not going to really beat you to the rim, right? And that's what I mean by attacking closeouts. It's a genuine issue. Not many guys are in the NBA that play that 3D small forward role that can't at least at least attack a closeout when it's the defender's overcommitted to the 3-point line. So I do think that's an issue. His defense would allow him to get drafted way higher than his offense. If he could dribble and attack the rim, I'd have him graded as like at least a 31 through 35 pick level talent because of how elite his defensive skill set is, and obviously the 6'10", the wingspan and 6'8" length is really nice for the small forward position. It could really be switchable in the NBA, and it really fits defensively what you would want out of a 3-8 guy. But because of that handle, I have him graded as a 56 through 60 pick level talent because he is also 23 and he doesn't have as much time to develop that weakness. So to the NBA level. All right, so the next player to break down is Cam Christie from Minnesota. He's 6'6" with a 6'8" wingspan, shooting guard, averaging 11.3 points per game, 3.6 assists, 3.6 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 40% field goal percentage, 39% three-point percentage, 0.6 blocks, 0.6 steals, 0.3 blocks. He's still such a really good, smooth athlete. Really translates to him being a really good on-ball defender. He can hit standstill 3-point shots, moves well off ball. It really shows the ability to handle the ball and, in the pick and roll and dribble handoff situations where he is able to hunt for that 3-point shot. And he's also not the kind of player that's going to force those shots when they're not there, and he will pass it to his teammates, so he's not an unreasonable shooter. So, he is nice and young. He's 18, 19. I do have him comped to a slightly more athletic Danny Green, but he's not as good as driving to the rim as Danny Green. His issue is driving to the rim. You don't really see any tape of it. I've watched 2 full games now, and I haven't seen him take somebody out the dribble and go to the rim and finish with a layup. But that probably explains the 40% field goal percentage, which is an issue. If he was better at that, this guy would be around a 16 through 18 draft pick talent at least. But I do have him graded as a 22 through 26 draft pick talent because he would definitely be able to get better at that type of thing with time because he's so young. And the thought process that is so realistic, but at the very least, you're getting an elite 3-point shooter because 39% 3-point percentage is so elite. His shot looks so smooth. So I have him graded as a 22 through 26 pick level talent, but due to the depth of the players that I have graded that range, he's ranked 30 on the big board.
Got a big guy. It was 7 foot. With a 7'2" wingspan, about 7'4" wingspan. He's a center from Cameroon. Omekomrike is his name, if I didn't pronounce that correctly. He averaged in the leagues that he played in with 3.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 0.5 assists, 27% field goal percentage, 0% three-point percentage, 1.5 steals, 2.5 blocks, and this was over only a 3-game period. He didn't really have a lot of big, major full season stats, so you kind of just throw that out the window, but that's the only stats I have to give you. So, he's one of those guys in a very odd situation because he is technically supposed to be in next year's draft class. The only places you can really find him is on a Nike Hoop Summit game, which is what I watch, where they do America versus the world, and he's obviously from Cameroon, so he played on the world side, so he was a good athlete. He's really smooth for a 7-foot height, which is things you just can't teach, but everything, I mean this literally, everything's raw. Defensively, how to defend the rim and use athleticism and length at the rim. He's raw at rebounding, how to rebound, and, fight for rebounds and positioning and those type of stuff. He's raw. How to set a good screen. How to be a real man off that screen. He's raw in those situations. Offensively speaking, he just doesn't have any other skill either. There's no 3-point shot. There's no mid-range shot. There's no really elite post game. He's just got a good body frame, got good athleticness, but everything is just so raw. To put his body frame and athleticness in perspective, I'd say he's about an inch shorter than Derek Lively, who's, the backup center right now for the Dallas Mavericks who are playing in the NBA Finals. Who I did scout last year, and I did like last year. I actually had them mocked at Dallas in my mock draft last year, if I'm pretty certain about that. Yeah, but, I definitely feel like Oh, it's tough because he has gifts that you just can't teach, right? So there is definitely some intrigue there. I don't think he'll go undrafted because of that. But the center position and these high upside guys are tough because there's a lot of guys that even go to college that have really nice gifts and they burn out and they don't really do anything and they barely see the floor even by their senior year. Right, some centers just don't get it. Some centers don't have the edge to play, their own roles and use their own athletic gifts. So it is definitely a boomer bust developmental 5 years away draft pick. I do think Mitchell Robinson was kind of like that, where they drafted him out of Western Kentucky, and he was a raw coming into the NBA. And sometimes you hit on a Mitchell Robinson, and sometimes you draft JT Thor, and it doesn't work out. And boy, if you're thinking to yourself, "Who's JT Thor?" Well, yeah, a few years ago, I think it was like 3 years ago, there was a 6'10", 6'11" power forward from Auburn that was freaky athlete, but didn't really have a bunch of skill to him. You could put Kai Jones in the same bucket, and Charlotte drafted him, and he hasn't really just done much yet. It looks like it's going to be moving towards that, later second-round draft pick being a bust. But, that's what comes with a boomer bust type of guy that's really raw. Sometimes you hit on them, and sometimes you don't. It's part of the game. So I do have Omar Krumrike graded out as a 40 through 45 pick level talent. And again, my comp for him is a very, very raw Derek Lively.
All right, so the next guy to break down is Isaiah Crawford. He is from Louisiana Tech. He has a 6'6" wingspan, 6'6" height. He didn't measure in the combine, so I don't have his official wingspan. Small forward, averaging 16.3 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 48% field goal percentage, 41% three-point percentage, 2.1 steals, 1.7 blocks. He's a below average athlete that really has issues defensively, lateral quickness wise. He's very slow. He's not really got great speed or vertical athletic gifts or or a super strong body frame. His body frame is very average for the NBA. Not an extremely long wingspan either, so he's going to have issues guarding people that are 6'6", which would be two guards. Probably have a chance guarding power forwards or small forwards, but it's a little small for that, so it has real defensive issues. His handle is below average at best. He's very reliant on scoring in the post, in the paint, catching the ball, and having center-like skill. He'll show some flashes of shooting a standstill three-point shot, and but his handle is so raw and his skill is so far away, and he's 23, so it's gonna take him so long to develop these things. Because also he's not a good defender, so I just can't really see him getting on the floor. So I have him graded as 80 through 85 pick level talent. He's the lowest guy on my big board at 71.
All right, so the next game in the group of guys to break down, because there's two guys from the same college, is Washington State's Jalen Wells. So Jalen Wells at the combine measure in at 6'8" with a 6'7" wingspan. He's a small forward from Washington State. He is a junior, averaging 12.6 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 1.2 assists, 43% field goal percentage, 41% three-point percentage, 0.5 blocks, 0.5 steals, and 0.2 blocks. He's above average athlete, moves really smoothly. It's really going to translate well to him being a good on-ball defender, being switchable. If I had to say, ideally, he could guard maybe 1 through 4, but probably ideally 1 through 3. He shoots the three-point shot really well. 41% three-point percentage is really elite. Looks really smooth and natural. It's a really pretty jump shot, honestly. Probably top 5 prettiest jump shots in the draft this year. It's really nice. He has some flashes of attacking the rim, which looks really interesting. His handle is slightly below average for the NBA, will need to be improved. There's no shot creation outside of those two things, but he has the ideal height of a small forward in a two guard's skill where he can be really elite at shooting the three and drive to the rim. May not be able to do much else in the NBA, but he definitely has, between that and being an above-average athlete and an above-average defender in the NBA, you could definitely see him having a role as some sort of 3-and-D kind of guy. He also could be an off-ball mover as well with how well he shoots the 3 and how smooth it looks. So, I definitely feel like he has a very clear role in the NBA, and he could be a very good player in the NBA. And I do have him graded as a 31 through 35 pick level talent. All right, so the next guy to break down from that Washington State game is another guy from Washington State named Isaac Jones, 6'9" with a 7'3" wingspan. He would be a power forward, averaging 15.3 points per game, 7.6 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 57% field goal percentage, 0.7% three-point percentage, 0.6 steals, 1.1 blocks. He's an average NBA athlete, which really translates to be an average on-ball defender, but he has that 6'9" height and 7'3" length, so he definitely has the ability to guard the power forward position, to have the ideal length and body frame to do it. But I would still say he's an average on-ball defender in the NBA level. He flashes some interesting, decent handle and some shot creation post skill that I don't think would really translate. His handle is maybe average, below average for the NBA, but the three-point shot's an issue. 7% from the three-point line paired with an iffy handle and at best average defensive abilities leads me to thinking that, and he's also somebody that's either 21 or 22. So he's a little older. There's not as much time for him to develop his weaknesses with that three-point shot because he can't shoot the 3 unless you're Draymond Green or, a great shot creator. You're not really going to get on the floor as a role player. So if you're a role player, you can't shoot the 3. You're not in the NBA, and he shoots 7%. So I have him graded as a 75 through 78 pick level talent. All right, so the last guy to break down is Naquan Tomlin from Memphis. Funny enough, I actually missed him from the same Memphis team. We could have scouted him last week because we did scout his teammate David Jones. But yeah, Naquan Tomlin's a 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan power forward from Memphis, averaging 14 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, 0.7 assists, 60% field goal percentage, 39% three-point percentage, and he is also a senior as well. He's also averaging 0.8 steals and 1.1 blocks. He is an average athlete with a very thin frame. Paired with his older age, it's definitely going to be question marks defensively, defending at the next level, because people will be able to bump into him and kind of finish at the rim pretty easily due to his lack of size. He shoots the 3 really well, has a really good handle, and flashes some really interesting shot creation. He's also pull-up mid-range shots. You saw some step-back three-point shots. You saw him being really good driving to the rim. He has a really, really interesting skill set for the size, offensively speaking. If I had to put his offensive skill, let's say if I transported him and made him 18 instead of 23, I just imagine his skill set and, his thinner body frame on a 19-year-old, he'd be a lottery pick. That's how interesting his shots creation plus 6'10" height with 7'10" wingspan truly is, with the 39% three-point percentage. But, he's 22, 23, and the defense is really a big time question mark. But the offense is really, really interesting. It looks really smooth, looks really interesting because he's so tall that he can really shoot over anybody that he wants. So it's not really an issue of getting his shot off at all. So I'm really intrigued by him. I personally have him graded as a 35 through 40 pick level talent. But, again, he could be definitely somebody that pops from this draft class. You draft from the second round and he pops and he's averaging, 15 to 16 a game because the skill set is really interesting. Really, really interesting. So yeah, I have Naquan Tomlin graded as a 35 for 40 pick level talent. So yeah, this is going to be the end of this week's podcast. Little intro for next week. It is finally here. The top 60 big board. It's the final top 60 big board. This is the end of our weekly full game breakdowns for this draft class. Finally have a good grasp on everything that's going on with this draft class. And it's really exciting. And yeah, next week is going to be the top 60 big board breakdown. I'm going to break down everybody in the top 60 big board from me, break those guys down. Lately, these podcasts have been anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes for the last few weeks. That podcast will be really long because 60 players will be in it. So just give you guys a little warning. It's going to be a long time, but it's going to be a fun podcast. Definitely the top 60 big board. And the week after that is going to be my top 6, the 1 through 60, first and second round mock draft. Man, I'm really looking forward to that. I already have like 1 through 20 down on my list here. So, and also you guys can check out tagged in every podcast in the details is my website, where I do have the big board already updated. So if you guys want a little sneak peek on the big board, you can just read it if you want to. So I do have that option for you guys as well, but I will be next week's podcast is going to be the big board. I can't wait to do it. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys all have great weeks.